Am I the a-hole for being truthful about why I want to move in with my dad? My mom and stepdad are foster parents, but living with foster kids is kind of awful. Nothing against them, and I really hope they're getting the help they need, but it sucks. I was forced into the tiny room, which is fine, but I also can't leave my room. I can't play music or video games. I always have to let them pick movies and TV shows. I feel like a prisoner in my own home, and I can't speak up about it because then I'm being ungrateful. I know it's nowhere near what most kids experience, but I still hate it. For months, I've been begging my dad to let me move in with him. I spend all my time there, and it would just make more sense. Logically, I know I'll never be able to. He's working 70 hours a week living in a one-bedroom apartment, but it's fun to pretend. My mom and stepdad don't seem to understand where I'm coming from. I should be grateful. I have clean clothes on my back and food in my stomach. Whenever I try to explain, they never listen and point out how much better I have it. Anyway, I was talking to my cousin on Monday and mentioned staying with my dad this weekend. She asked why, and I explained that I just don't like being at home. She asked why, and if that's why I want to move in with my dad, and I said yes and explained how I felt. She eventually went home and told her mom, I guess. Yesterday, my aunt pulled up and basically demanded to know what was going on. I don't know what exactly happened, but they got into an argument and my cousin came up to help me pack some clothes for a few days. When we went down, my parents accused me of making things up, saying that I had no need to feel the way I do. My aunt didn't really give me a chance to reply before we left. I went home today to grab some stuff, and they called me selfish, saying I created an aggressive atmosphere which wasn't good for the foster kids. So I said, I don't care about the foster kids right now. Why do they matter more than me? My stepdad told me to get out, so I did. A whole bunch of family has blocked me in socials, and my foster sister has been posting about how I'm selfish and only care about my own feelings. My dad is now clued in, and he and my aunt are both saying that I'm not in the wrong for feeling the way I do. But no one else seems to agree. So am I the a-hole? Edit. A few people have mentioned some things I should add. I'm 14, and my mom and stepdad are currently fostering 2 sibling sets. One set of 3 girls and another set of 2 girls and 4 boys. Totally 9 foster kids. And 3 of the kids are diagnosed with autism, as some people have asked about that. No, they don't make any profit. They do love their kids and fully intend on adopting them all. They're amazing parents. Just not to me. And no, I will not be calling their social worker or whatever. I'm not doing that to my foster siblings. I'm hoping to convince my mom that me moving out will be better because it creates more room for any emergency fosters or something. Now for the top comments. Not a hole. They should be fostering if it's at the expense of another child. And regardless, you're entitled to your feelings. I understand that they're helping, but it kinda sucks. My brother and sister-in-law have fostered 4 kids at different times. But they already have 4 kids. They had to adapt, obviously, but they understood that their children were their children, that their voices were always heard, babysitting, hanging out with, etc. And it's been a very constructive atmosphere, because they also made a time to be with their own children individually at different times, so that they don't feel like a spare or something like that. Your feelings are completely valid, and your mom and stepdad are a-holes for dismissing your emotions and thoughts so openly. Do whatever you need to do to be healthy, Opie. Not a-hole. Your feelings are valid, and they don't stop being valid just because other people might have it worse. That is a really unhealthy mindset. You deserve to feel safe, happy, and comfortable at home. If you don't experience that living at your mother's house, there's no shame in trying other living arrangements. Sometimes just have to do what's right for you. I'm kinda stuck here, but thank you. Please call the social services agency that placed the fosters with your mom and stepdad and tell them all of this. They're essentially making you a prisoner in your own home, not allowing you to do standard teenage activities, not listening to your needs or wants, and disregarding your feelings. Not the a-hole. Have you ever had the opportunity to speak to the social worker that connects with your parents? Because you should have been interviewed about your comfort level with this. You need to contact a DHS and tell them that your parents are doing foster care, and your stepdad told you to get out because you complained to your cousin about feeling uncomfortable in your own home. This is a huge red flag. Edit. Opie mentions in an edit that his mother and stepfather currently have 9 foster children in their home. That is unusual, as most states limit the maximum number of minor children in the home to 6. And given that several of those children are special needs, it is definitely a red flag. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for bringing my daughter to a water park with a friend instead of her stepsister, my ex's stepdaughter? I took my daughter 12 to a water park with her best friend last weekend. I'd planned ahead with the parents and we stayed a couple of nights. This was our first time going anywhere in 3 years, and it was the first time she got to take someone with us. But given the way things have been in the last year and how good she did at keeping up in school, I wanted to reward her. The trip came up while my daughter was with me. She goes to her dad every other week. He's married and has a stepdaughter the same age as my daughter and 2 stepsons who are 6. My daughter and her stepsister aren't close, and it bothers the hell out of my ex. He has tried to sue for more time just so they are forced to be around each other more. And my ex is always asking for more time with our daughter so she can bond better with her stepmom and step-siblings. I always say no because I never take his time with her from him or her, so he doesn't get to do it to us either. He has always asked where I can include his step-kids, and I'll be honest, I don't. For 2 reasons. I normally don't bring other kids, and because my daughter has always asked not to be forced to bring them. Her dad has brought it up around her. She said her dad suffocates her with them, and she's tired of him always trying to make them close when they just don't feel it. So when he found out her friend came with us to the water park, he was furious. What made it worse was his stepdaughter was in the car when we were doing the exchange, and she saw my daughter's friend's t-shirt that she bought there and realized where we'd gone. Apparently, she has dreamed of going for years, but never got to. Ex told me I should have made her take stepsister over a friend, and his wife called and told me I didn't need to flaunt it in front of her daughter. I said I never flaunted it, but I wasn't going to make my daughter's friend hide either. They gave my daughter hell for it while she was at her dad's. It makes me question if I'm the a-hole for not including her stepsister in this. You're definitely not the a-hole. Your ex is. It's so weird that he expects you to treat his new wife's child as family. You should encourage a friendship, yes, and be kind to her. But you owe them nothing. It's his responsibility, not yours. Especially when you're footing the bill. And it's more fun for your daughter to get to take a friend too. It is also really important to point out that even blood siblings shouldn't be forced to go to every event and share everything all the time. It breeds resentment, and there's literally no benefit to anyone when parents do it. You will find Reddit riddled with posts about siblings and step-siblings being forced to do everything together, and it breaks my heart. Not the a-hole. If the father wants the 2 girls to go to a water park together, then he and his wife can take them. And bullying your daughter over it is appalling. If nothing else, it will ensure that the 2 girls never become friends. Worse, it will probably ruin any relationship she might hope to have with her father in the future. It sounds like they want to go so that they can pressure them into spending more time together. They didn't want to go to the water park. They wanted another opportunity for them to bond. Want to add, the parents might even want to dump the kids in Opie while they go on all the slides in Lazy River so they can get a break from the kids. Absolutely not, a-hole. He's alienating his own daughter for his step-kids. Guess he's gonna pick mom when she's old enough. Bingo. That is setting the stage for low contact or no contact in the future. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her kids and step-kids aren't really mad at each other but mad at her and her husband? My sister has 2 kids. Her son is 11 and her daughter is 9. She has 3 step-kids. Her stepson is 10, stepdaughters are 9 and 7. They got married 3 years ago, and honestly, my sister and her husband messed it up pretty badly. They were long-distance dating for 4 years and lived 2,500 miles from each other. So they decided to wait for any big moves until they were getting married. 1 month before the day came, he moved in with my sister and her kids. None of the kids had met each other or their future step-parent. The day they moved in happened, it became very clear that the kids were not once super excited to go through the change and super happy for more people, regardless of how much their parents wanted it for them. My nephew and niece have told me they resent the hell out of my sister and her husband for what they did. My nephew told me he hates his mom for moving her husband and step-kids in all at once, and never giving them the opportunity to know the people or feel how they felt before it was a done deal. He even said, what if they had been jerks to them? There was no going back so close to the wedding. The kids fight each other a lot and generally don't get along. All have resisted bonding with their respective step-parent too. My sister and her husband think the kids hate each other. And especially lately it has come up a lot because the kids don't even mention having step-siblings or step-parents new people. It bothers my sister, and she has come to me several times with her frustrations but never wanting advice. Finally, the other day, she was doing the same over and over and over again because she found out her daughter had made it seem that it was just the three of them still to one of her friend's parents, and the parents seemed shocked there was a step-family involved. And she said she doesn't get why the kids hate each other so much. And it was getting hard to listen to her talk about it, especially when I had asked her to stop on more than one occasion and had cut her off before. So I decided to tell her that the kids don't actually hate each other. They're not mad at each other. They're mad at her and her husband. She was stunned and said they had no reason to be mad at them, that it must be the kids. Well, she found out by asking her kids directly that I was right, and now she's pissed. She said I had no right to interfere and judge her and make it sound like her kids hated her. Our parents told me I should have said nothing like she always wanted, but at some point, the truth had to be brought up, right? Or should I have stayed quiet? Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You told her the truth. Poor kids. If OP's sister and her husband had spoken to any type of professional counselor, therapist, or child psychologist, psychiatrist, oh, I don't know, hell, even a pediatrician, they would have been told that the way they handled this is absolutely wrong. It was pretty much guaranteed to set these poor kids up for failure. OP, you were not an a-hole at all. Your sister and her husband, though, wow, huge a-holes. Not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. She needed someone to tell her, and you voiced what you observed. She's just mad because she and her husband screwed up by not introducing their new prospective family members to each other organically. I know distance played a role, but they couldn't organize any hangout time prior to the wedding? They could have tried, and ideally that's what people would do, but they never did. Those kids never laid eyes on those new people, nor did they ever say one word to them before they were all living together. Do the kids have to share rooms? That wouldn't help either. Unfortunately, they do. Last story. Am I the a-hole for favoring my daughter's room choice over my stepson's? I, 34 female, married my current husband, 41 male, 6 years ago. I have one daughter from a previous relationship, Annie, who is 16. My husband has a son from his previous marriage, Sean, who is 19. When my husband and I got married, we bought a 4-bedroom house. We took the master bedroom, leaving 3 of the children to decide between a larger one and 2 smaller ones that made up about the same square footage as the large one. We told the kids, Annie was 10, Sean was 13, that they had 2 options of how we could handle the bedrooms. 1, they could each take a small bedroom, and the large bedroom could be turned into a mutual hangout area for them to share. Or 2, one could take the larger bedroom and the other could have both smaller ones as their own. Sean, being a 13-year-old, wanted a large bedroom as his own. He and Annie decided that he'd take the larger one and should take the smaller ones. I did ask her many times if she was sure this is what she wanted, as she's quite shy, and I suspected Sean had more so told her than asked her. But she seemed content enough with it, and it didn't really make much difference to God what in the grand scheme of things. So that's how it was. Now, Annie has one of her rooms set up as her bedroom/hangout area, and the other set up as her closet/makeup area. She loves it and is happy with the setup. Sean, however, has just graduated high school and wants to switch bedrooms with Annie because he wants to turn one of the smaller rooms into a gaming/streaming room. I presume an idea he got from Annie because she makes makeup and fashion/fashion design/sewing videos in her studio, as she calls it. He asked Annie and Annie said no. He then asked me and I said ask Annie. He said he tried, but she was being unreasonable. I told him this is what they decided, and that I wasn't going to force her to change now. He then got my husband involved, and they're both angry with me, saying I'm favoring Annie because she's my own child and treating Sean worse because he's not. Which, I've known him for half of his life and helped raise him our entire marriage. So that stings a little, even if it is true. My husband thinks that since Sean is an adult, he deserves to have the extra space. But honestly, it isn't even extra space. It's just separated, and he likes how Annie did it. I just feel like it would be very unfair to Annie to make her switch. Annie and Sean have had a pretty decent relationship, but Sean has been getting increasingly more passive-aggressive with her since this has come up. Am I the a-hole for not making Annie switch? Edit. Just to clarify, Sean wants to give Annie the big room and take the 2 small rooms as his own, and Annie isn't interested in switching at all. Not the a-hole. Your stepson was kind of greedy and took the big room. Now he is jealous because your daughter made it cool. Sean does not get to want and get his way now. He doesn't deserve any extra for now being an adult, especially when he's acting like a whiny child. Kinda greedy? He is greedy, and he's also a boy. But I'm guessing he gets it from his father since his daddy sided with him. Not the Opie, but you will be if you don't talk to your husband about backing off. Your daughter shouldn't be punished by having to switch rooms just to please her live-in tormentor. And your husband shouldn't be enabling your stepson's behavior. Otherwise, the horrible behavior towards your daughter will just get worse. Not the a-hole. Sean seems to think it's unfair when he doesn't get what he wants. He's a 19-year-old brat whose a-hole father is enabling him. Now he's harassing his sister? Annie might need a lock for her makeup/clothes room. I'm not sure why a minor with 2 more years to go until she can move out is being expected to give up her space to an adult. Does Sean intend to live at home for the next few years? If so, Sean and his dad should put up a wall in Sean's room. Or it might be time for Sean to move out. He can do whatever he wants in his own apartment after all. You would be the a-hole if you give in to Sean's demands. He is trying to strong-arm you into getting his way, just like he probably strong-armed Annie to take the small rooms when the original offer was put out. He sounds very entitled. Not the a-hole. It's also worrying that an adult man is being passive-aggressive to a teenage girl because he didn't get his way. If this is any indication of how he treats women, he needs to be schooled now. He made his choice a few years ago, and now she said no. He needs to accept that without any manipulative behavior. Yep, I am in no way suggesting kicking him out, but at 19, they should be discussing his path to independence and what his future looks like, not allowing him to get ever more cozy at home, especially at the expense of their daughter. In addition, I think in accusing Opie of favoring her daughter, the husband has actually revealed his own feelings, which are that he doesn't view daughter as his own and thinks his son should be prioritized. He doesn't view daughter as his own. This is a very good point that I had not really thought of. Update. I'm exposing the woman my partner, now ex, cheated on me with. Original post. I, 34 female, had been with my boyfriend, 35 male, for 7 years when I discovered that his close female friend, 33 female, who gets him like no one else, has been sending him nudes, texts, and begging him for hookups. He has been reciprocating. What bothers me even more is that she's married, and her husband has no idea. They've stayed in hotels together multiple times, while both lied to my face, insisting that nothing was going on. Meanwhile, I've quietly collected evidence, taking screenshots of everything I found on his phone. I stupidly told my partner I would forgive him if he gave her up, but he adamantly refused. He said he loved her more than me, but still wanted to keep both of us. So, I've been quietly preparing to move on without him. I let him renew the lease in our house while I sort out my finances. And I'm planning to expose her as karma for all the lies. Thanks to my partner buying her adult toys on Amazon, I know where she lives. She stays with her husband's family, and here's the kicker. She can only remain in the country because she's married. She has even said that once she secures her visa, she plans to leave her husband and be with my ex. If I expose her to her husband and in-laws, he'll likely divorce her, and she'll be forced to leave the country for 6 months to a year. She wouldn't be able to afford a visa on her own, and her previous attempts to secure one independently have been unsuccessful. Her husband currently funds it. If she has to go back, she'd end up in a Muslim country with her parents, who would despise her if they knew what she had done, though her father is currently cheating on her mother, so it seems to run in the family. I wouldn't even consider doing this, and I might have forgiven her if she hadn't lied to my face. She cried her eyes out when I confronted her, claiming I made her feel like a
and that she'd never betray her religion or husband. 3 days later, she was hooking up with my boyfriend in my bed. I'm not sure when to go through with it. She's going back to her home country next month on a trip her husband paid for, and I know he would likely leave her there and cancel her return flight if I told him. But if I expose her now, my ex would know it was me, and he would leave the house. I can't afford a place on my own until next year. Alternatively, I could wait until I've paid off most of my debts and can support myself, which would mean holding off for nearly a year to avoid becoming homeless. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Gather your info, seek a lawyer, and start making an exit plan for yourself. And I would tell and show her husband what she has been doing. Thank you. I feel awful for him. I go to the gym with him and is genuinely such a nice guy. At least to me. Obviously, I don't know their circumstances at home. She hasn't even got a job but goes to the cinema several times, / hotel stays without him and new clothes every week, etc. And he pays for a lot. She's taking advantage of a kind man. Tell the husband and let him leave her there. Also, he can't just leave the house he has signed for. It will ruin any chance of him renting again. Plus, he will be required by law to pay. Tell her husband. Send him the evidence and let the chips fall where they may. Oh, I didn't know that. In about 10 months, I could afford a place by myself, which is what I was planning on waiting for. But if I can do it sooner. I don't know where you live, but be careful with assuming your partner can't leave the home / be removed from the rental agreement. There are places where a renter can pay a penalty to be removed from the lease. Check your local laws and also your rental agreement. The agreement should or might have a clause that explains if / how a renter can break the agreement. I don't want you to get stuck with a house you can't afford if your partner leaves, because you assumed he legally couldn't when in fact he could. Thank you. I'm avoiding putting where I live just in case either of them comes across this. It's specific enough that I think they'd figure it out, but I couldn't make my point being any vaguer. It's why I'm considering waiting a few months until I'm better financially, as much as I'm itching to do it next week while they're on holiday. I can afford all bills with ease once I've finished paying off this awful loan I've had for a while. He genuinely thinks I'm happy partaking in an open relationship, so he has no reason to want to leave at the moment. I think the sensible option is to wait, but it means you guys will have to wait a few months for an update. Now for the first update. Last night, I bumped into her husband at the gym. Since she wasn't with him, I decided to tell him everything. He had suspected she was cheating but didn't want to believe it, and thought they could work on their marriage, until I showed him the screenshots. I also told him about her plan to divorce him once she obtained citizenship. She asked for some time to gather any evidence he could find, like the adult toys my ex bought her to strengthen his case. He also asked if I could anonymously report the situation, because he didn't feel ready to face it himself. He wasn't angry, just incredibly sad, and I've felt awful for putting him through this. But he didn't deserve to be used like that. This confrontation happened sooner than I expected, but he promised to protect me from any fallout, considering I took a risk by telling him the truth. If they get an amicable divorce, she'll have 60 days to leave the country and would need to restart the visa process to return. If she is charged with lying to gain a visa, she could be banned for 10 years. I'm not sure if cheating qualifies as lying for the visa, but I don't have proof of that yet. Second update's a month later. A lot has happened in the last month. It feels like the first post was ages ago, given how stressful things have been. As kind of expected, the husband backtracked and decided he wanted to try and save their marriage. He had no idea she had 3 different escape plans lined up to run away with my ex. I did anonymously report her, but I'll never know the outcome. I assume it will come up when they start the divorce proceedings. My ex and I continued living together until about a week ago, but it was unbearable. We'd have moments of peace, then erupt into arguments over the smallest things. The final straw was when my ex started completely ignoring me after I had been driving him to and from work because his car was broken down. I even drove him to the gym, but when I got ready to go in, he told me I wasn't allowed to because she was there, and that I made her uncomfortable. When I told him I wasn't going to change my plans for her, he accused me of being a cruel and horrible person for not supporting their love, and said I deserved to be unhappy. I laughed in his face, threw him out of the car, drove home, packed all of his belongings, and dropped them off at his mother's house. And by dropped off, I mean I tossed them out of the car and called his mom to come get them before they got stolen. After that, I stood for a bit and then drove to the other woman's house. I told her family everything, and her father-in-law was probably the angriest of them all. I showed them all the evidence and gave them copies. The husband and she tried to play it off as some couple's adult game, but the evidence made it clear that wasn't true. Even if it was, she knew about me and my relationship with him. During this, the husband discovered that she had already consulted lawyers about how to divorce him while staying in the country, so they've now begun divorce proceedings. She's set to return to her home country. She has also blocked my ex and everything because he wasn't supposed to keep her nudes or texts. He had lied to her about living with me and still talking to me. She thought that after I found out about the cheating, he had moved out and cut contact. On a few occasions she saw us together at the gym, he had explained it away as a coincidence. My ex is now blocked on everything and living with his mom. I returned his car to the dealership and accepted a payment plan for breaking the lease early. I'm waiting to hear back from a cute one-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from where I currently live. It's £400 cheaper with a garden for my dogs. I'll lose my deposit and owe for some damages it cost to the house, but I don't care anymore. I won't get to see the rest of the fallout, but I've seen enough to carry on with my life, knowing I hurt them as much as they hurt me. I'm petty, but it's made me feel better. This account will be pretty much inactive from now on as I focus on moving forward and rebuilding my confidence. Thank you everyone for your support and advice. I was truly alone, and it was comforting to know that strangers from all over the world could band together in our shared disdain for cheaters. In the end, the idiot wanted to play with fire and he lost everything. That he did. She probably didn't deserve as much karma as she got, but it is what it is. His own family couldn't care less even after knowing me for all that time. Same for his friends. They supported him. You're a queen. Your ex is genuinely awful. Which dumpster did you pick him up from? Be careful not to collect future partners from dumpsters moving forward. As for her, good riddance. I don't understand people who think the betrayed spouse shouldn't confront the affair partner. Yes, the spouse is the biggest culprit and should get the biggest ass kicking. But if the affair partner is perfectly aware of the entire situation, then screw him. They're not innocent at all. Only if affair partner is truly unaware, then they shouldn't be targeted because they're also a victim. And in this situation, affair partner is your friend and the basis of friendship is loyalty and respect, to which she's shown you neither. So, go off, queen. Thank you, and God knows, you think you know someone. I even said to him, if he'd broken up with me and then got with her, I never would have cared. I would have been hurt but not spiteful over it. And that's what I said, but he did try to argue, before I blocked him, that she didn't deserve any of this, and that she's the innocent party. Last I checked, me and her husband were the only innocent parties, yet we were expected to wave them off into the sunset together? Next story. That's not what you're supposed to do in an open relationship. My ex Gina and I had been dating for about 5 years. She told me she loved me but wanted to open our relationship and experience more of life. I didn't want that at all, and I made it clear that it wasn't my thing. But she kept pushing, and I eventually agreed because I didn't want to lose her. I'm not an extroverted person, and I wasn't really interested in seeing anyone else. So I just kept living my life the same way. Then about 6 months ago, I met Helen through my job. She was really interesting, and we clicked right away. We had similar hobbies and tastes in pop culture, so we started hanging out as friends. Helen knew about my situation with Gina, so we kept it friendly until things got more complicated. One day, a guy asked Helen out, and she turned him down. Afterward, she called me and said that I was the closest thing to a perfect boyfriend for her, even though I had a girlfriend. She admitted she was too into me and felt like accepting the date would have been like cheating on me. It wasn't sexual, but it made me think about my feelings. I asked Helen if she thought we would make a good couple. She said yes, absolutely, but she wasn't going to be responsible for me leaving Gina. I told her to give me a month to figure things out. That night, I broke up with Gina, packed up my things and moved out since it was her lease. I gave her money to cover my share of the bills until February. After the breakup, I kept hanging out with Helen as friends, and eventually I asked her on a real date. She agreed, but made it clear that she was a one-man woman and would never want an open relationship. That was exactly what I wanted too. When Gina found out I had basically left her to be with someone else, she was furious. She accused me of developing feelings for Helen while we were still together, and said that wasn't how an open relationship was supposed to work. She was also upset because she couldn't afford the apartment on her own. I told Gina that I never wanted an open relationship in the first place, but she had insisted on it. I don't think I did anything wrong by moving on with someone who wanted the same things I did. You meeting Helen had nothing to do with your open relationship. You weren't happy with Gina, so you monkey branched to Helen. So I guess the question is whether monkey branching makes you the a-hole. I would not have hung out alone with a woman if I was in a monogamous relationship. I would find it disrespectful. You're not supposed to find a new girlfriend in an open relationship. Hun, you're not supposed to force an open relationship on someone who doesn't want it. Karma. She played stupid games. Got to win a stupid prize. If I were Opie, the fact that she did not want to be in a committed relationship with Opie, then she broke off their relationship, not him, no matter what she says. Last story. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my husband after catching him in bed with our married neighbor and exposing her to her husband? This is honestly such a mess, and I'm not sure if I handled it the right way, but here it goes. I, 34 female, have been married to my husband, 36 male, for 7 years. We have an 8-year-old autistic son, and life has already been pretty stressful for both of us. I thought we were handling it together like we were in this as a team, until a few weeks ago when everything fell apart. We live in a small neighborhood where everyone's pretty friendly, and I got along well with our next-door neighbors, Emily, 32 female, and her husband, Dave, 35 male. Emily and I weren't super close, but we chatted often. Our kids played together sometimes, and our husbands would occasionally hang out too. At first I thought it was nice that my husband and Emily seemed to get along, just neighbors being friendly. But then things started to feel off. My husband became more secretive, especially with his phone, and he seemed to bump into Emily whenever I wasn't around. He'd go out for random walks or suddenly needed to run errands right after dinner. I noticed these little things, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. I mean, we'd been through so much together. I didn't think he would do something like that to me. Then one day, everything came crashing down. I had to come home early from work unexpectedly because our son's school had a half day that I forgot about. I walked in, and there in our bedroom, I found my husband and Emily together. In our bed. I felt like the world stopped. They both panicked when they saw me. My husband scrabbling for his clothes and Emily crying, saying it was a mistake and that she was so sorry. I couldn't even process it. I just walked out, shaking, and went to pick up my son from school. Later that night, I confronted my husband, and he admitted to having an affair with her for the past few months. He begged me to forgive him, said it was a stupid, impulsive thing, and swore he loved me and didn't want to lose our family. I was heartbroken and didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't stay with someone who would betray me like that. Then there was Emily's husband, Dave. I knew him well enough to know he had no idea what was going on. I couldn't just stay silent and let him be blindsided like I was. So the next day, I went over to their house while Emily was out and told Dave everything. I even showed him proof, texts, pictures, everything I had. He was devastated, obviously, but he thanked me for being honest. And that's when the real drama began. Both my husband and Emily were furious when they found out I told Dave. My husband said I should have kept it between us and worked things out for the sake of our son. Emily called me all kinds of names, saying I had no right to tell her husband and that I ruined her life. She even claimed it wasn't serious, and then I blew everything out of proportion. Now Dave is considering divorcing her, and I've already filed for divorce myself. I'm getting a lot of flack from mutual friends who say I went too far by telling Dave and that I should have tried to keep things private to avoid tearing apart two families. I feel like I did what I had to do, but now I'm questioning myself. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my husband and telling Emily's husband about the affair? Should I have kept quiet and handled it differently? Honestly, her friends need to mind their own damn business and stay out of hers. She's more than welcome and has every right to divorce her cheating ex. So true, they're not real friends. Real friends would support and love her. My advice? Get new friends. Also, show them this post to show them how crappy they are. I love it when cheaters start talking about rights. I'm not even a huge believer in monogamy, despite personally being married for 20 plus years. But a promise is a promise, and betrayal is betrayal. How dare you respond to my complete betrayal of you in a way that reflects poorly on me? Yeah, okay.